Hello everybody, it's Skyler and I'm firing back up the Beat Saber official mapping critique series. Around the time that the Panic at the Disco song pack came out, I was just really busy and didn't really have time to go on with the series, but now I've got a little bit of free time and I want to go back over everything starting with Timbaland. I'm even going to go over the song packs I've done previously, but a lot of my tastes have changed, so that's really the motivation for that, and I think I can go through these song packs that I've done before with a bit higher level of granularity and a bit more objectivity. Of course, no critique is going to be perfectly objective, but I'm going to try my best with the knowledge that I have now. So today we are going to start with Timbaland, but before we dive into the maps themselves, I want to talk about everything surrounding this song pack. So you may initially ask yourself, who is Timbaland? Well, Timbaland is an artist. He is a songwriter, a lyricist, and a producer. He's been really pervasive in the industry. He's been around since the 90s and has been involved in a ton of songs that you may not even recognize him for. The two biggest songs that I can think of that he's known for is Give It To Me and Promiscuous. So those might be two that you recognize by name. And even if you don't, you can just look them up online and they should ring a bell pretty fast. He's just not really as well known as some other artists just because he's not as high profile, but he is definitely a big influence in the industry. And even though this does say Timbaland music pack, it's really a Beat Club music pack. If you look over the artists up here, two of them don't even credit Timbaland at all, so I'm guessing he was completely hands off with those. So Beat Club is some kind of music platform similar to SoundCloud or TunePort, where I think it's targeting small artists to be able to sell and or license their music and maybe any kits that they come up with. If you look at all the artists credited up here, Sid Tipton, Cadence, Waves, Nash Overstreet, Care and Common Strangers, and Bruno Martini, also featured artist Jake Davis. You can see just by searching these artist names online, all of them have small followings, just with the exception of Timbaland. So it is nice to see that some kind of program is being created to boost smaller artists' following. But it does appear that Beat Club as a whole is not in full swing yet. If you look at their website online, it's really bare bones at the moment. There's just a couple of links to contact them directly, and also some merch that they appear to have already. It is nice to see that they have that extension. Beat Games, around the time they were creating new song packs, it appeared they were very gung-ho on getting smaller artists into the game, but it seems that that train has hit the brakes pretty hard lately, seeing the Panic at the Disco song pack, Imagine Dragons, and Green Day. But hopefully this is a return to form for them, and hopefully we can see more smaller artists make an appearance in the official game itself. And hopefully DLC prices can come down as a result, but it does not appear that way because this is a full price DLC pack. I also want to talk about the color scheme of the Timbaland song pack. So you can see that the color scheme is blue, black, and white. It also does come with custom colors and a custom environment. You do not have to pay for this new environment, by the way. It comes with the update 1.8. The custom colors for the notes are a very dark gray and blue. All the lighting is blue as well. It's a monotone kind of color scheme, even though all of the lighting here is done in red and blue. So if you were to disable the colors that come with Timbaland that are shown here with any other color scheme, like the default one, you will see multicolored lights. Another thing I want to talk about is the cover art for all of these. Never understood Beat Game's fascination with using in-game screenshots to represent the cover art for the songs. It really reared its head in OST Volume 3. Even OST Volume 2 had them, but at least Rum and Bass has an actual picture there. I would really like them to just hire an artist to do covers for all of these, and maybe there is already an artist working on it, and these songs were just so early that they didn't have time to finish it. But sometime in the future, I really want to see them replace these cover arts with, especially While We're Young, just having the worst album art of any of the songs in the game, period. It's just a close-up of 2 blocks, and I'm not really sure why they went with that picture. It looks kind of awkward, if I'm being honest. You'll also notice that a lot of these songs are relatively slow compared to the rest of the songs in the game. So if we're talking exclusively Expert Plus, Has a Meaning, Dumb Things, and While We're Young are all at 15 note jump speed. For those of you who might not know, note jump speed is the speed at which the notes approach the player. This is measured in meters per second. And a lot of the songs, especially While We're Young, has the notes spawning really far back. I think it's around 35 jump distance, and jump distance is a value that's measured in meters divided by 2. So there is a design language there. The exceptions to that being What I Like and Famous are both at 17 note jump speed, making the songs feel quite a bit faster. And these happen to be 2 of the maps that I like slightly more than some others. So let's go ahead and get into the song Has a Meaning. Has a Meaning was a song that I believe was the teaser for the song pack before it even came out. I was really confused with the video they put out for it because they had Timbaland's face in the corner saying the lyrics for his part of the song. It was really quite awkward, and I'm not sure who convinced somebody higher up that, hey, Timbaland should be in the corner for this music video thing while we have Beat Saber playing the expert map of this, but they went with it. Anyway, we're gonna fire up Has a Meaning, and we're gonna start with Expert Plus. I'm gonna try to play as best I can while commentating, but I'm just not really good at talking while playing, so expect me to miss quite a few more notes than I normally would. I'm also gonna rewind during some parts to talk about specific patterns used and maybe discuss some ideas I believe they had intended for certain patterns. So let's give it a start. Oh, I also wanted to talk about the song previews for all of these. So anytime you click a song in Beat Saber, it fires up an audio preview of what the song is supposed to be. I believe setting a proper song preview is extremely important in any song because it gives the player a taste of what the song is, and if they hear a really good bit from the song, they're going to be more enticed to play it. If you were to set a good song preview to play while you click a song, then I think you're going to entice a lot more players to play that song, because a lot of these songs are unfamiliar to people. Like with Green Day, a lot of the songs people recognize from that. They don't even really need to hear the song preview for it to know what they're about to get into. But if you listen to the one here, the song is called Has a Meaning, and the singer, Sid Tipton, right there, is saying the name of the song, and they try to do that for most of the songs up here that have the song name in the lyrics. But I think they could have set a slightly better preview here. So if you listen, I think they should have started right there, where she starts saying, I won't walk away. And then it culminates into this sound. Those right there, I think those are not 1/16th, 1/32nd or 64th. I don't know what the musical notation of that is, but I'm pretty sure it's 1/64th. But I think they should have set the preview right there specifically. I think it's a lot more catchy than what they have set now. Anyway, let's fire up the map. Let's get started. Gotta make sure we're playing with the colors that they have in mind and the environment. Big fan of this environment, by the way.
Baby, talk to me, enter my reality. Twist you up and
so some pretty basic patterns right here.
Am I throwing you off?
Nope.
But when Timbaland starts talking right here, you're gonna notice. Oops. Let's play in practice mode so I have the ability to rewind. Let's get off on the right foot.
Baby,
so as I was saying, pretty basic mapping style right here. It doesn't have to be fancy quite yet. We're just getting started.
Am I throwing you off?
Nope.
But as soon as Timbaland starts to speak here, you're going to notice the mapping style change immensely from the rest of the map, and I think that was a good choice.
I didn't think so.
So this is the style I was talking about, and it works really well. Some of the notes I'm missing just because I'm not focusing on them exclusively, but they're all placed really well. And as soon as Sid Tipton starts singing again, the style changes back. And I really like how the blue and the gray here is changing. And here's the iconic pattern of the song with those little finger snaps. Every song needs to have some kind of iconic pattern to highlight the song. It not only helps with the fun factor, but it helps make the map itself more memorable. Here's another iconic part. Let it play. That little pattern right there has you coming off to the side. So it's kind of like a carefree kind of motion, like let it play, let it play. I believe it's intended for you to lean in with that pattern. And here is the 1/8 coming up, or 1/64, however you want to call it if you're a mapper or a musician. So that was a really cool pattern right there, and a lot of people might disagree because it uses dots. I wish I could move this out of the way so you could see it better, but let me see if I can tone down the speed. So the reason these are dots are mostly because the note jump speed is so low. It's at 15, and it's done that way on purpose because they want to capture the slow feeling nature of the song. It also helps with some of the mapping, like when Timbaland was speaking back there and I had those stacked note patterns. It helps a lot with being able to hit those without missing. But I really like the way that they did that pattern there, although some would call those dots as the up notes lazy mapping. It really helps because of the slow note jump speed. I even went through one of my own maps recently and tested this out for myself to verify, and I believe that is the best way to handle that situation. They also have it starting in the center, down, down, up, up, and then it goes to the sides, down, down, up, up. That was probably one of the best ways you could handle that as well. If you simply had them in a line, down, down, dot, dot, down, down, it's a lot harder to read. I tested that as well. There is one other way you could do, instead of going from in to out, you could have started from the left-hand side and went down, down, dot, dot, and then moved over 2 lanes and went down, down, dot, dot. That one also works as well. They could have also mapped that at half speed, but it would have been a lot less fun and interesting. You can hear Timbaland speaking in the background again, and we see those stacked notes again. However, because his vocals aren't as piercing, they're not as strict angles as they were before. They're kind of like a mix between that really basic smooth patterns and those really angular stacked notes. It's a combination, and I think that was a really good decision as well. And now it gets really angular again and heavy on stacks. So it's just the same patterns as before on the last verse. Not really much to say here, it's just a repeat of the patterns from before. And then the iconic pattern again, which is those diagonals going into each other, having you make this motion. It is important to note that the first 2 finger snaps you hear of this song structure part are not actually that pattern, they're actually 2 transition notes. So let's go back there. See, 2 transition notes just get you into the pattern. It's going to help you miss a lot less.
I've been counting up the days. Turn me on and drop the needle, drop the needle. Set the record, let it play. 'Cause I won't walk away till everything in me has meaning, has meaning. Oh, I won't walk.
Again, not much to say, it's just a repeat of from before. And then here's the bridge. Actually, no, not the bridge. Ignore that. This is the post-chorus, I think. And we see dots here, and I'm not sure exactly why they're dots. Sometimes they... Oh, this is the outro. It seems like they use those dots to represent that little sound that you can hear very faintly, but it happens just after. I don't believe those dots are intended to really be used to help you miss less, but I could be wrong.
You gon' vibe to a beat. You gon' vibe to a beat.
And there we have it. Overall, really, really good map, I think. I like some of the stylistic approaches done to the mapping, like when Timbaland, whenever he's speaking, you see those stacked notes. Probably one of the best maps up here, period. My only real complaint is some of the notes could have been angled better. I wish I had pointed them out when they happened, but with me commentating and talking over at the same time, it's kind of hard to point out those specific moments, but I will try my best in the future. So the next song we have is Dumb Things by Cadence and Timbaland.
You make my heart feel like this where I belong, yeah. Too late to go back now, just say it now, people.
Well, the song preview for this one is okay. You really can't do a super fantastic job with the song preview on this one because the song is really the same. I mean, all the songs are the same tempo all the way through, but it really doesn't feel faster or slower during any specific part. So picking a better song preview than the one currently is probably impossible. So let's go ahead and fire up Dumb Things. Oh, I should mention, this one is mapped by Yazer. The last one was mapped by Freak. So far, so good. You can definitely tell this is Yazer map, though. His maps tend to be slightly more vertical, or slightly more horizontal feeling than other mappers. So a lot of the notes will be angled to the side a bit more often than other mappings. So that motion we had, oops, I'm not in practice mode again. See if I can find that motion again. And you can hear every time we see one of those stacks, it's to that boom hit of the drum kit. There was a slight concern for a controller smash just then. I kind of grazed my elbow, but not really a huge deal. The note jump speed is pretty low and spawn offset is a bit pushed back, so you have time to prepare for it. So not really a big concern, but something worth noting. So that motion right there usually doesn't work, but works because they set the note jump speed so low. So in this case, it actually works, but most of the time, having the player go all the way to the side of the opposing lane from where their Saber is starting and hitting an up note in the very top corner typically doesn't work, but works here because they set the note jump speed so low. Another thing to note about this song and bits of the last one, anytime there's a musical pause where the rhythm stops for a moment, like let's say there's a do-do-do and then a pause and then a do, usually I like to see whatever the last Saber you hit with lead into the next hit, They don't really do that very often in Dumb Things. That's something I noticed about Yeazer. He doesn't really tend to keep that in mind very often. For this song, doesn't really matter. Note jump speed is super low and the song is slow, but as the BPM of the song increases and note jump speed increases even further, that's something I really pay attention for. Anytime there's a musical pause, I like to see whatever Saber hit the last note before a pause lead into the next one.
Wanna do dumb things, babe. Caught up in the moments, don't think about the aftermath. That's my
So,
fault, no
Yeazer
cap.
patterns, again, he's
I
going
ain't
pretty
know
wide and
that.
vertical with these, or horizontal, I should say.
Meant to hurt you, even though it ended bad. Yeah, we got a pass. Why can't we get past? Got your wrist strip, VVS cut. Every now and then I be messing up. Yeah, do dumb things. One day I'ma lose something. Make my heart feel like this where I belong.
Ooh, and I want to go back over that movement too. Anytime you hit a down note in the top row, you can either do it correct or incorrectly. So let's
Every
see
now
his
and
setup
then
for
I be
that.
messing up. Yeah, do dumb things. One day I'ma lose something. Make my heart feel like this where I belong.
Yep, he did it right. So anytime you hit a diagonal downward from the top row, let's say with the blue hand, like in this scenario, you don't, there's, well, first let's talk about the grid for nobody who knows. There are 4 columns and 3 rows. So let's say we were to do a diagonal down in the top row in the second column right here. So not right here, but over here. If you want to hit that, the best setup that I've found in my experience to lead into that is to have that same color Saber go in the far top right corner and being directly up. That's the best setup for this specific down in the top row that I've seen. This does change, however, if you are doing a stream pattern, which basically means just slicing really quick up and down with both hands.
I belong. Too late to go back now, just say it now before you. We want the same things, babe, just wait till I get older.
Not much to say here, just repeats of previous patterns.
Dumb things, babe. No, it's my fault, I done made you ice cold.
So this little bridge section here is really cool. I think a mark of a good mapper is knowing how to do a bridge right, giving it that mapping pattern variety, keeping it interesting, and since bridges are usually slower, knowing when to reset in context to the music. And that was done pretty well there.
Too late to go back now, just say it now before you. We want the same things, babe, just wait till I get older. 'Cause I wanna do dumb things, babe.
And then the outro here.
Something, babe.
So there are these notes that we like to call windows. And windows are these things up here. Windows are anytime you have a stacked note of a single color. The one that's about to come up is blue, or is gray. So this is a regular stack right here. This is called a window, which is a stack but with a space in between it. So these work okay right here. I still don't think they're the best option. I think they should have just been a stack in the 2 center columns and it would have been fine. This is more so done right here just to add a little bit of pattern variety, but it's going to lead to frustration among some players. And I don't think the amount of pattern variety that it adds benefits over just having a regular stack right here in the center 2 columns instead. I think it would have been preferable to use that. And especially the second one. Maybe I went a little too far back. Anytime you have a stack like this second one right here, or anytime you have a horizontal note in general going all the way to the far lane and being completely horizontal as opposed to a diagonal, can be really hard to hit. However, they did have a low note jump speed here. Typically for Expert Plus, we see 16 to 19 for most of the songs in the official mapping. But because this is so low, it makes that a ton easier to hit. But if this note jump speed was any higher, I would highly advise against using that specific pattern right there, and instead having the stack like I mentioned earlier. Or if they wanted to avoid stacks altogether but still have you reach far over, they could have had that as a diagonal down with the gray saber, typically red. So let's finish this one up. Actually, this doesn't feel like a Yazer map, really. I think I was wrong. No, that's a Yazer map. It's kind of weird to see him use stacks. He doesn't typically do that. That seems to be more of a freak thing, especially Windows. Windows is a big freak thing. But yeah, I think overall that felt like a Yazer map with a little bit of freak elements thrown in. Maybe that is becoming part of Great Yazer's mapping palette at this point. But overall, pretty good. There was a little bit of concern for some controller smashers and a little bit of feedback. I would have changed those windows at the end there. My main complaint is just this song feels really boring compared to a lot of the other songs done in the game. Some people will enjoy this, however, because it's so low tempo and chill. A lot of people are going to enjoy that, but personally, I didn't care for it much. Alright, so the next song we're going to do is probably my favorite from all of the songs up here. It's called While We're Young, and it has the best song preview of all these, so if you listen to it here. It hits right on the chorus and says the lyrics, and has high energy. This one is also done by Yazer as well. Let's jump into it. Alright, so let's talk about this real quick. The very beginning. The notes have already spawned right here, if you notice. Let's see if any of the other maps we've done so far do that and I didn't notice. Nope. Oh, I didn't mention this either. All these songs I think have a riser sound effect. They've been doing this for a lot of their songs in Beat Saber. They modify the very beginning of the song to have this sound effect right here. It's called a riser. That. And it changes depending on the song. Let's see if there's a riser here as well. Yep, there's a riser there. But my main complaint right here is the notes have spawned already. There is no blank space before notes are even here, so let's restart and you can see that effect again. So notes are just there. And typically for these notes, horizontal notes and up notes will have a little flipping animation that plays when they spawn in. But here you don't even see that animation at all because the notes are already spawned. So they should have just put these back. The BPM of this is 113. So I think these notes are spawning on beat 3. And most songs I would not put a note until beat 4. So I'm not sure why they didn't push everything back by just one beat. It would have made just a little touch that makes the map better overall. And because you're paying for this content, I believe they should take care to provide little details like that. You will already notice that this song feels even slower than the last ones, and it's not because the note jump speed is different. It's actually the same. It's 15. It's just the notes are pushed so far back. And for this song, it works pretty well. It's a good thing to try to have variety in how far away the notes are in relation to the sound of the song. For this one, I think it was a good choice. However, there are some patterns later on in the song that do not work well at all with how far the notes are approaching you from. And I'll point those out. This is definitely a Yazer pattern too, this. And especially that, I think that's his signature move right there, and I've picked that up and I use it a ton. That's probably Yazer's most common move that I see him use, is that. Boom, right there. And I love this whole section right here, it's really good. So this is probably the first pattern that I have issue with the note jump speed at. So if you look right around here, I'm gonna slow it down. This. So because of the way that the player is centered right here, and the way you look at those two diagonals, they almost look like they're on the same beat. Because of how far away the notes are, it's going to give you some kind of tunnel vision effect where the notes appear that they're lower than you're typically used to. That in combination with the fact that the note jump speed is low, so the notes aren't spaced out as far, it almost looks like you're supposed to hit those two at the same time. So that's the first offender of this combination of note jump speed and how far away they spawn from you. But there's a worse one that comes up later. And I like those stacks in the top row right there too. So that's another big one right there. Having those two in the center lanes that go boom boom right there, really close together, also does not do any justice to the note jump speed and the spawn distance they have set. Spawn distance has been something I've been referring to previously. It's just how far away the notes are when they spawn. Right there, it doesn't work very well. Accidentally hit the button. I like that little pattern right there. We haven't seen that, but that pattern used to be all the rage where you have the two horizontals going out and you crouch at the same time. That used to be a really common pattern back when the game first came out and people were starting to find patterns that worked kind of cool and felt good, but not a pattern I've seen in a while. That squat right there, I think Fafurian was one of the mappers that I remember doing that pattern a lot. And this is how you definitely know it's great Yazer. These bombs right here, the way he's placed them, normally when you do a side hit right here, your right hand naturally wants to go up and your left hand wants to go down. So this is effectively a down note and an up. So the next pattern that you would have come after this would swing this hand up and this hand down. However, the way he's placed those bombs kind of force you to scoop both hands up. So you're effectively hitting those both as a down. So it's like that. He's done scoop patterns like that in the past without the bombs. If you look at his maps in Imagine Dragons song pack, I think in Thunder he did that quite a bit where he would have you hit both hands to the side and then scoop them up. I think he did that in Escape as well. I think he did Expert Plus for that. But in Exit the Earth's Atmosphere, that's the first time I saw him use it in a map with the bombs, and it helps a lot. And I really, really hate that stream right here. It's just, this stream pattern here is just really uninspired, and it works against the note jump speed and the spawn distance that have been specified. It's just bottom row and top row. And it's cool to keep things simple, but I think that's the wrong way to do it for this stream in particular. Usually the distinction between Expert and Expert Plus these days is just how much total movement you get, and that's usually done going from bottom row to top row to help signify that something is Expert Plus because it gives more movement, and I totally love them most of the time. Typically we call those patterns jumps, but typically it's to a higher BPM than the one in the song. The song's around 100. But just the way the note jump speed and how far they spawn out, I think that little stream pattern was the wrong call there. And something either more interesting could have been done, or just in general, keep it more grounded. Keep the streams more to the bottom and middle row. Would have been a lot easier to read. So we're actually starting to see Yazer do that thing I mentioned earlier. Whenever there's a pause in the music, whatever you hit the last note with, you lead in with that same hand when the pause ends. Except right there, he ignored to do it. And the last map, I didn't complain about that really. I just mentioned it, but here I'm kind of complaining just because of how the note jump speed and spawn offset is set so far away. It becomes a lot harder to read these notes as a result. And if you have that natural pause not being ignored, and you just continue alternating the hands in sequence, it becomes harder to read as a result and less natural. So sometimes he's doing it and sometimes he's not. And that really widespread pattern too, it almost looks like one of the notes. I think this one right here is slightly before the down, but I don't believe they are. Just another issue with the note jump speed and spawn offset. Again, I do not hate that they're spawning far away. It's just with this mapping style, it doesn't work very well. For a lot of the mapping it does, but there are tiny moments where it doesn't work. Like right there again. The biggest benefit of this low note jump speed and spawn offset, having the note spawn so far away, is that stack in the top right corner is the biggest benefit of this combination. It's really easy to read, and what would typically be a hard note pattern to hit suddenly becomes a lot easier. And that too, with the horizontal note going all the way crossing over to the bottom row, to the bottom corner. Again, a benefit of having the note jump speed so low. Again, spreading the arms onto the crouch wall, and him scooping the hands right here. Really cool effect. And the bridge here, or the build, I should say. And I believe this is the last chorus. Again, same patterns as before. And this is actually my favorite part of the map, this little bridge right here. This is a big distinguishing part of what makes a good mapper from a great mapper, is knowing how to handle the bridge, and Yazer does it perfectly here. Feels really elegant. Classic Benny patterns, as I would say. Alternatively, what he could have done instead of just having one hand, and I think the way he's done it so far has been great, but he could have opted to have the gray saber, traditionally left or red, in the top row here, and the blue saber going up, but at the bottom row it also would have been a pretty cool motion, but the way he's done is just fine. If he were to do that, it would be like that. I love the little guitar part here, and I love that pattern as well. Not something you usually see, and distinguishes this map from others. And I love that rhythm too, the way it just feels here. So let me try to put my finger down on why I like that so much. Yep, so it looks like the blue hand is leading that pattern, but it's blue, gray, gray, blue, gray, gray, and it feels really great. I'm not sure if the timing on that has changed, if they're like triplets, or if they're in 3/4 or what, but it feels really good however it's been done. Some people might have issues with that, the hand changing right there, but for me it's really natural. I have a lot of experience feeling the rhythm of different time signatures and just recognizing patterns on sight read. But I really enjoy it, but do keep in mind some people won't like that. Usually in a lot of these guitar solo breakdowns, the time signature does in fact change. It usually changes to 1/6 of a step there, so maybe that's what's going on back there. I can't really, in game, I can't really tell without sitting down and listening to the song what's actually going on there, but maybe that's what's happening. Because traditionally that's what I've seen from little guitar solos at the end of pop songs, is that they'll change the time signature. They'll use something like 1/6 of a step or 1/9, however that translates into a standard musical notation. And again, syncopation here is great, just like all the other maps. It's going to the lyrics, the synth lead, and the beat. And again, ends with that spreading pattern, which we were previously used to go into the ducking wall. Great stuff overall. Just doesn't really doesn't use the best patterns for this note jump speed combination. I did complain about it a lot. Alternatively, what you could have done is you could have used 16 and 0. So let's see what that looks like. And actually, a benefit of using this, let's see if we see that flip animation. Yep. So the notes actually spawn right on beat, it appears, using this combo. Let's do that again. Yeah, we actually see them turn this time. So that's one small benefit. But also because they're coming faster than they were before, it doesn't really help all that much. I think a lot more people are going to prefer this being used. But there are disadvantages to this as well. And I'll show you. That note right there in particular is going to be slightly harder to hit than it was previously. Note jump speed slightly makes it harder, but the biggest thing that makes it harder is the spawn offset being lower, so the notes spawn closer. They could have also used 15 and 0.25. I can't really do this with the plugin I'm using, but I can get pretty close. This would probably be the best combination to use if you're keeping all the mapping the same. However, I think the best call would have been to be 15 and 0.5 kept intact, but just change some of those bugaboo patterns that don't work well with it, particularly those two diagonal notes that are offset, and also that stream pattern. If you change both of those things, this combo works a lot better. But overall, really good map. My favorite song as well from here. So the next map up here is What I Like. What I Like, I'm pretty sure Freak did. I haven't read. If you go on Twitter, usually they'll post which mapper did which map. But I haven't checked that in a little bit. But I'm pretty sure this was Freak. I played all these songs before I recorded this video. And it felt like this one was a Freak map to me. So this has a really good song preview too. So good song preview. Let's jump into it. This is also the first map on this entire list where it's actually faster. So this is the first one that uses 17. Famous also uses 17. It actually feels like Yazer mapping right here. And that's the weirdest pattern we've seen so far, but it works really well. Right here. I actually quite like it. And I think a big moment was missed right here, if you listen to the lyrics. Where she says tunnel vision. We've already got walls surrounding us, and that's probably the intent of those walls, is to go with the whole tunnel vision thing, but those walls were also repeated previously to the lyricist saying tunnel vision. But I think that was a big opportunity missed, where you could have forced the player into a really tight space where you have a wall on this side and a wall on this side. And you still could have made the patterns work with that too. It just would have been a little tweak, but pretty big opportunity missed there. Because I know Freak likes to do little details in the songs, especially to the lyrics. You can see that in, I believe, the Whatever It Takes map does a lot of that. And also the map from the Rocket League song pack Play does that a lot as well. Give me that little tight wall, please. And so he's using, every time there's been a pause so far, he's used that last Saber hit to lead into whenever the pause ends. So, right there. Actually, I think he skipped it right there. And we're starting to see the first slant window here from any of these songs. That's how you know it's a freak map, is when you see windows or slant windows. That's a cool motion, and then that right there. So prior to this update right here, 1.8, you couldn't have that specific note combo really without using dots, and that was used in Ghost, by the way. But if you have a note right here, I wish there was a way so you could see the grid better, but it's basically right around here and a note down here with a space in between, and it's the same color. They will now rotate to be the same direction. So this is it's not a 45-degree angle, it's 22.5-degree angle, I'm sure, but this was not possible prior to the song pack coming out. But pretty cool motion. I don't really care for the up window though. I do really like that wall formation on the other hand though. I don't think I've seen that before, where you have the ducking wall in the two columns, the two center columns, and then have the rest of it on like a quarter stepping back. But that was pretty cool. Again, some of the same similar motions before. We saw that little yeet motion from earlier, but hits on the measure, feels really good. And this time we're having that slant window again, but it's coming from the top, the very top to the bottom. Also pretty cool motion. But didn't really care for the up one. Alright, another verse, same patterns from before. The way the hand switch right there felt pretty satisfying. Nice wall formation again, just a repeat of earlier. And a little thing I failed to mention earlier, but it's a little details like this stream. That little diagonal right there, a lot of people would have that as a down note, but it's just a little detail like angling that so it's easier to hit. That really makes a lot of the OST maps better. I really enjoy this bridge as well. Especially the motion that's about to come up again, I believe. Ooh, yeah, that's the one right there, that window that goes boom to that really hard drum hit right there. It goes boom. I really enjoyed that motion going all the way over, and it being mapped like that feels really satisfying. A little nitpick, and I don't think a lot of people care about stuff like this, but it's just my OCD. Anytime you have a diagonal note placed directly adjacent to a wall, the texture, the model of that cube will actually slightly clip into the wall because the notes will rotate slightly as they approach you. So you can kind of see it right there, how it clips in just slightly. Not sure why those are dots. And also really love that little pattern right there, that blue, or that gray, blue. I've watched some videos of people playing that pattern and tons of people seem to mess it up. But again, I just have so much experience with lots of different syncopations and rhythm and alternating hands that it's super easy for me to recognize something like that. But I did really like it. Let's listen to it and play it one more time. I don't think the music really changed right there unless there was some drum hits going on in the background, but it was a change from previously, but it does feel good. The patterns have changed slightly from the beginning. And then the outro here, really unsure why those are dots. It might be some kind of musical cue that I'm not hearing, because I do have the song turned down. And we end with a crouch wall, and you can hear just after that crouch wall is actually where we hear the song going brr right at the end. So that crouch wall is actually not on time to the music, but because the pattern that's directly in front of it, that's the most natural way to end it. It's just a little thing that you can't get perfect no matter what. I do want to replay the outro one time because I would think I felt something weird with my left hand. Yeah, that felt kind of awkward for a very small moment right here. Let's go a little further back. I'll show you exactly where. Yeah, it was the left saber on the left-hand side. I think it was right around there. It's either that up note or that down note where it's a single. My left saber just felt like it was along for the ride right there. I'm not sure exactly why, but let's try to find out. I think I broke the song. Yeah, I broke the song. So we'll never find out. Probably my favorite map so far in terms of mapping. Not my favorite song. While We're Young is probably my favorite song so far, with Has a Meaning in second place. But song's pretty good. Mapping was the best so far that I've seen. I like how the song was a bit faster with the note jump speed than the previous one. So overall, only positive things to say about that, really, with that tiny little nitpick with the diagonal directly adjacent to the wall. All right, last song, Famous, another freak map. I'm almost positive of this one for sure. But I do remember specifically that Ruckus did the lights for this. Ruckus is another mapper who's commissioned by Beat Games to create maps. He is a lot pickier than Yazer and Freak when it comes to music. He's mostly known for really creative patterns. Sometimes works against him. Like if he were to map this song and not just the lighting, he kind of doubt his ability to do this song just because he is so particular about what he maps with his specific style. But good song preview again. Alright, this song already getting a little bit funky right at the start with that pattern, and that's going to be the iconic pattern of the song. Well, one of them actually. That little pattern, that crossover, usually results in a controller smash set up properly here, and then you immediately go into this little stream that starts with ups. Kind of a weird feeling, not necessarily bad, definitely feels weird and it stands out. So something to note, but I quite like it. Oops, tracking. And I love that little motion, how I'm swinging my arms and tucking into my shoulder right there, in timing with that wall to push me over. And as the singer's notes start to drop lower and lower right at the end there, we hit really low. So let's do that one more time so you can. So really high notes and then a low note. And then the second signature pattern popping up right here. Again, as I've stated before, it's always nice to have a unique pattern exclusive to a certain song so it stands out more in context to the broader maps that are available. So right here, right there. I missed it right there just because I wasn't paying attention, but that whole motion feels really good, really unique, really creative. Another signature pattern right there, I would call. And every time the singer ends his bar, it's being mapped to a particular motion that's unique from all the other ones. So we had one motion that was a diagonal down in this corner and then up in here, so it kind of makes you float over. We had another one that was that, I really don't know what to call this motion, but I'm just going to call it a yeet for now. That motion right there. And then we have the to be those stacked horizontal notes. That's probably the one that stands out the most. It's probably the most fun one too. And every time he does the famous thing, hands are up in the air, so that's another thing to keep in mind that's been done with this. And this is an interesting hit. It's one of the most uncomfortable hits so far. It's nice to have that pattern variety. I don't think it was necessarily warranted, that really wide swing. I'm not hating on it, really. Just something to keep in mind that some people are not going to like about it. The initial signature pattern pops up again. Tracking's going a little bit wonky here. And it is always nice to see a mapper sneak in a little single Saber section wherever it makes sense in the context of the music there, because the notes are spaced so wide apart. Da, da, da. You have the opportunity to do that without really pissing people off. Oh, something I do want to point out though, that I just realized. So, as you can see that motion right there, that is usually that upward lifting motion every time the singer says famous. As you can see right before we came out from it, we were actually in a crossover type of pattern where the blue was over here and the gray was over here, and then we did it. However, when we first did this chorus, let's go back a little further. Right there. So you see those two notes that were right there? They were just straight down into those diagonals. It might have been better to actually cross the sabers over there and then into the diagonals. It gives you more space for each hand to angle outward as opposed to coming straight down, and then you have to angle them out. So if you cross them over, it gives you a bit more space, and it also is more consistent to what happens a little bit later using that same diagonal up-out pattern. Okay, Ruckus. You just really wanted to strobe there, didn't you? So this pattern works okay right here. We're going from diagonal in this corner to diagonal in the others. That was kind of sort of a vision block. It wasn't a big offender, but it was definitely there with that stacked window. And the funny thing is, those stacked windows usually exist solely for the purpose of avoiding vision, but right here it actually blocks it by being used. I don't think it was 100% required. Yeah, you didn't need that at all. So the thing it's being mapped to is that synth noise, and they start out being horizontal, and then we're doing two diagonals. I think you actually should have kept them as horizontal. It would have helped with vision and also been more consistent to what we've already established. Again, those diagonals, when I first played this map, it felt really awkward. Now that I've played it again, it makes a bit more sense. But I think there was a better alternative. Yeah, that. Um, I think you should have just done the crab rave pattern instead, maybe, or aka the Mr. Blue Sky pattern. Two horizontal notes going up and they're stacked on each other. When you do it over here, blue hand is on bottom, gray hand, traditionally red, is on top. Same thing with over here, just flipped. I think you could have maybe done that and would have been a better move, but it plays fine. Just on the first sight read, it's kind of annoying and a little uncomfortable to hit. I think that crab rave slash Mr. Blue Sky pattern would have worked a little bit better. Again, I haven't tested that. Just something that's in my head. Oh, and I like that. So syncopation has changed very slightly here. Where initially we had a double hit, now it's staggered out into multiple hits. See right there? So it seems like all of the syncopation has changed, if I'm not mistaken. And I have the volume turned quite a bit down so I can focus a bit more, so I can't hear every little detail of the song, but perhaps something has changed. Or syncopation has just changed exclusively because we're nearing the end and we're trying to amp up the intensity. I don't think the way you ended that song was the best, but I don't think it matters because I can't really think of anything better. Where he says anymore might be preferable to do a crossover motion. Let's say like Blue Saber here crosses diagonal down into the middle row on the far left. Maybe would have been more fitting, but really it doesn't matter. It's the ending of the song. The rest of the map stood out and was far more important than how you end it. And it feels fine. All right. Those are all the songs from the Timbaland pack. Trying to recall here, main feedback for every map. This was pretty good. Would change the song preview for sure. Dumb Things just didn't really enjoy the song, and there was a couple motions I did not like. While We're Young, biggest issue was the note jump speed. While it works for a lot of the map, there are particular moments that stand out as not feeling too great. And even though someone like me appreciates having variety in where the notes spawn, in terms of distance, there's I don't know if it's a vocal minority or a majority, but a lot of people that I know personally do not like note spawning far out at all. So when you do something like that, it's really your artistic freedom kicking in. As the mapper saying, I really want it this far out because I understand the song really well, but for people who don't understand it, those people that I know might not like it. Personally, I can enjoy it, but I would still change those couple of patterns where the note jump speed and how far away the notes spawn work against the map. What I like was probably my favorite map. It had the most interesting patterns and the least issues overall. I believe this was the one that had a couple of windows I didn't like though. Famous. I didn't really care for the song very much. Ruckus did good jobs on the lights as usual. There was that little strobe moment where I was like, yeah, he just kind of strobed that to strobe that, but he's having fun. Everything was really good. Biggest issue was just the note jump speed and While We're Young. Some people are not going to like the music in this, but I think it fits in with a lot of the songs that are already established in Beat Saber. For example, Be There For You and Escape are pretty similar sounding songs to like something like Has a Meaning, except for Timbaland's verses in that. Overall, really good. I really like the environment as well. It seems a lot of people like the environment as well, but most people are complaining that you have the Timbaland insignia. Let's take a look at that. A lot of people complain about that, and I gotta say, I agree with it. Just the fact that you had that promotional video for Timbaland already, and he's in the video for the Beat Saber promotional video, just off in the corner in a really unelegant way. Really, like, just gives this this feeling that he just really wants his name everywhere and his face everywhere. It's kind of obnoxious, but it's fine. You don't really notice it while you're playing it, but a lot of the community mappers really like this platform a lot, and they want to use it in their maps, but just this really blatant insignia over there makes them not want to use it. And a lot of the DLC maps in general also have some kind of insignia in it. Like Green Days is really obnoxious. It's front and center. Rocket League is at least artistic and makes a lot more sense. Monster Cat has the Monster Cat logo. The worst offenders are still definitely the Timbaland and the Green Day platforms. People really like them and want to use them more in the community, but they can't because the insignia just is so out of touch with whatever song they're mapping. For example, Green Day has a big speaker cabinet over here, and it fits really well with rock music, but you can't use it with rock maps if they're not Green Day because it has that big Green Day logo right in the middle. Maybe that's something we'll look at when we do that. We'll be doing the Green Day song pack next. We're gonna go from the most recent song packs to the oldest one. So the next one should be Green Day, Rocket League, Panic at the Disco, OST volume. Actually, wait, Camellia was in there. Camellia got expanded to that. I believe that came out after Rocket League. I think it was right after Rocket League that the Camellia ones came out. Either that or after Green Day, but I'm pretty sure it was after Rocket League. I'll take a look at that, and that'll be whatever is next will be the next video. So stay tuned for that. So since I've had more free time, you should expect these a lot more frequently than when I first started, and we're going to be going over absolutely everything, I hope. As you can already notice, I went to a lot more detail, rewinded a lot more than previously, and hope to do that to the rest of these as well. So that's it, folks.